Welcome back, Red Spotters! Back to our show here on Red Spotlight Entertainment, the podcast that brings you all of the latest stories coming out of the world of movies and more. We got a pretty big movie week coming up with the Academy Awards, and of course we've got a lot of our conversations kind of surrounding that, as well as reviews for Drive My Car by Ryusuke Hamaguchi, and then also Licorice Pizza by Paul Thomas Anderson, bringing you all of the stories coming out of the world of movies and more. It's me, Alexis, and of course with old reliable Peter Martinez, back on Red Spotlight number 380. There'll be other stuff we'll get into as well, but that's what we're here basically for. So again, as a reminder, the Academy Awards are coming up. We'll have Peter's not going to watch them, so I guess I'll be the only one. Well, he's not. I mean, he'll probably just watch the highlight reels and whatever clips I send him. But I'll be watching the whole show and I'll review the whole show. It's going to be a fucking train wreck. We'll get into that in a bit. And as, of course, the winners. And then, presumably, in the following weeks thereafter, we, as a team here on Red Spotlight Entertainment, will convene together, Peter and I, the regulars, and then, you know, Kyle will make a special guest appearance, as he likes to make every quarter of the year, it seems like. Once in a blue moon, when he cares or gives a shit enough, he comes on a podcast. And he will join us for the top 10 show of 2021, which I am excited to do. And I can't say for sure, but I want to say that at the very least, the top 5 are locked.
Ooh.
For me, particularly in how they're ranked. I'm gonna say this several times throughout that show, even though to my everlasting annoyance, Peter will take any and every opportunity he can to undercut that, which he knows will just like eat away at me, which is why he does anything these days. Which is to say, just because the top 5 are ranked in a particular way does not mean that I think that there is this huge chasm of quality between all the different. So they're going to be arranged in a way that's going to shock some people. But yeah, that's not going to be a good enough explanation. I'm going to be scorched earth, as they say.
Well, deservedly so.
Yeah. See, I include Nomadland. I include Parasite. I even included
like
Moonlight.
9 and 10.
Yeah, because they weren't my favorite that year. Sue me. Even though I agreed.
Disgusting.
Yeah, you see, this is exactly the kind of tease you'll get for the show. So I can't. I'm sure you're waiting.
Get ready for all the best films of the year to be in his bottom 5.
Absolutely. Although they never seem to make your list. Anyway, let's go ahead. I mean, at all. Really at all. Let's go ahead and get into, quickly, before our reviews, what we saw this week. Peter, did you see anything?
I barely had time to watch what we're reviewing tonight. Oh, no, that's not true. I rewatched Lego Batman.
Yeah. I love that movie.
Very, very good. It's so good. It's so good. I really enjoyed it.
Underrated?
Yeah. Would you count and I think you know where I'm going with this. Would you count a deleted scene as something?
This was actually one of the things that I was going to talk about. I should have mentioned
kick it
later.
Later. That's fine.
Yeah, we can. We can go ahead and well, we should just get into it now since we already mentioned it. I just wanted to clarify for those listening. Usually the way we do things is we kind of do what we saw this week and then a whole bunch of other news items and rants before we get to the reviews at the end of the day for our shows, but we're flipping it around. So yeah, that's why we're doing this quickly, because I don't have much else to go off on, and then we'll get into the reviews. But since you already mentioned it, we should just go ahead and say that today everybody was just, it seemed the only thing that interested people today, and to be fair, it was kind of a slow news day, was the fact that Warner Brothers had dropped a deleted scene from The Batman, Matt Reeves' The Batman, one of which we were looking forward to for a long time. We knew was not in the final version of the film. At some point, we thought it would be in the movie. And that is in the face-to-face sequence of Robert Pattinson's The Batman going to Arkham and seeing Barry Keoghan's Joker.
Yes, Barry Keoghan.
So, you were saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I watched it, obviously. It's about 5 minutes.
It is, huh?
Yeah. And I guess the reason why I wanted to bring it up, because it almost functions like a short film. Very, very short one.
I've seen that going around. It's like, yeah, it really does, huh?
It's a little mini story. It's like, gone. And less so on whether I enjoyed the, I guess, scene itself. I think what's more interesting is whether, how one would feel about Mr. Barry's Joker, his interpretation of it.
Because it's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. I really liked it. And I think it really emphasizes the just griminess of Matt Reeves' Batman world, right? Because, talking about the whole realism thing, while Nolan's Batman films feel realistic, they feel realistic. They feel like the city looks real. The Joker, he's just wearing makeup. He's got scars, right? He's someone or he himself cut himself, but they're like regular scar, whatever. But every time I see footage of the world of Matt Reeves' Batman, all I could walk away with like, I need a fucking shower. Like, this place is grimy. And I think his interpretation of the Joker really shines through, right? He's just not a crazy guy in makeup. He is just fucked up. Like his nails and hands all bloody and fucked up. Probably he did to himself. Looks like the goddamn Crypt Keeper. His really fucked up face. Like, it's not just like he's got some gashes. It's like I'm afraid I'm gonna get an infection. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on with him. It's really not great. His whole look, like and I mean that in a positive way.
His condition, his physical condition is just not in a great circumstance. He's clearly been damaged.
Yes.
In many ways beyond repair. And at this point, we're just talking about physically.
Yeah.
Not to mention mentally.
Yeah. And what I like about this Joker, for one, and this is like the main reason, if any, I've seen some arguments on why it's good that it was cut, and I guess I agree with a lot of what people are saying. It's that like it kind of gives too much away that works better as a surprise later on in the movie, and it's like, true, but what I love about this dynamic of Batman and the Joker is, one, this implied history between them. I think is really, really cool. Like, yeah, like he was, the Joker was probably the first insane individual at this level, that he took down, and now he goes to him sort of like a Hannibal Lecter type thing, a Silence of the Lambs type thing, where they go and talk and to try and help him with other cases that he's doing. And there is this sort of like built-in relationship because of that, because they're always interacting in this way. And the way that the Joker tries to just break down, not physically, but mentally, like who Batman is and throw it in his face. All that stuff within 5 minutes. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
It was shot beautifully, of course. I love how, you just slowly and slowly reveal, but also still behind a glass. Like, it's still like it's still not completely revealed here, and only just makes it that more exciting whenever he is going to be the main like villain, whether it be the next film or the following film thereafter. Because you were right, because Barry Keoghan is not somebody you'd think of offhand to be cast as the Joker. And I think this is just confirmation about how inspired it really was. Because I think when you look at, when I heard the name, I'm like, whoa, okay. And then you see this. Well, I mean, technically speaking, we saw him a little bit in the film itself, and I liked him there. But with this in mind, it's like, yeah, this is pretty much a perfect Joker to this Batman. You already get so much with your individual performances, but as a dynamic, you're already invested. You're already just like in it. It's just, this is so fucking great. I love Barry Keoghan, obviously. And this is a great way to segue off the joke that was before the fact. The previous occupant of this particular character.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And it's also and it's hilarious because when you think about this is the first on-screen. I'm talking about on-screen. This is compare this Joker Batman sequence to the one we got in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that.
Right? I'm gonna fucking kill you.
It's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
And who knows who the fuck said what in that sequence. All I remember is Jared Leto's there, and that's funny. Mm-hmm. But the dialogue was gobbledygook. It meant nothing. And it was childish and everything. But even just now, I this may be controversial. Although maybe not for me, because I never really liked this iteration or that movie, but I already prefer Barry's take on it than Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, I mean, I do too. To me, and again, I guess controversial. I never really viewed that Joker movie. To me, Joaquin Phoenix never came across as like the Joker.
No, he just came across as a crazy murderer.
He's a crazy, and I know a lot of people might be like, "What's the difference?" Just get any crazy murderer in a clown makeup, and that's the Joker. I think there's more to his character than that. Clearly, because he's one of the greatest villains, I think, in any medium of all time. It's instantly, recognizable. Up there with the devil and Darth Vader.
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, like it is what it is. So I think there's more to him than that. Joaquin Phoenix Joker, good performance. It has nothing to do with his performance. It's just like the story itself.
Well, it's the characterization, or there being the lack thereof.
Yeah.
Remember, it's Todd Phillips that made that movie, and that wasn't, I think, that Joker. That was a version of him, and I think Phillips was trying to attach this socio-political commentary onto and tie it into like the whole origin for him, and blames. That's where we live in a society. Is that where that comes from?
It doesn't come from there.
No,
but it really blew it up.
It escalated.
Yeah,
it escalated because of that film.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean,
the whole society
meme. Well, I guess society was the villain in that movie, technically speaking.
Yes,
at least that's what Phillips was trying to come across.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I agree. He comes off crazy, and he does eventually wear clown makeup. But I never felt like I was looking at the Joker per se. Here, it does feel like the Joker to me.
You get that almost immediately. At least I do.
Yeah.
And I felt that way, especially in the film, the Batman itself. I love that laugh.
It's a great laugh. And I was
something that Jared Leto didn't have either. Jared Leto, the more it's like when you think about like the further removed we are from like that initial like era, the worse it just gets. At least the performance in and of itself. Forget everything else around it, but the performance itself is just like, whoa. People thought this was great initially, remember?
He's like the shadow version of Nick Cage. Because like every performance is just like, wow. But not in the best way, but it's still mesmerizing in a way. Like when he literally played Mario in fucking in what's it called? It's Paolo. How could you?
Fucking House of Gucci.
House of Gucci.
yeah. And got a Razzie nomination for it. I hope he wins. It'll be coming up, I think, in a couple of days.
What a great performance.
Absolutely. And he's hilarious. This is no pun intended, but it's a joke that I guess he has a movie coming out soon. It's called Morbius, and it's been delayed so many times that it's coming out on April Fool's Day.
That's great. You can't get better than that. I love it. He needs to make better choices. I don't know what to say.
I feel like people are just done with him at this point. I think Jared Leto is just annoying.
Yeah. That's what I mean though. Like his acting is over the top with some would call similar to Nick Cage, but Nick Cage has such like you watch it and there's a positive energy, like you love it.
Mm-hmm.
But then with him, there's like a negative energy and you hate it. And I don't know what it is exactly. But
Could you imagine if they had asked Jared Leto to host the Oscars?
I don't know what he would do. I don't know if he can.
But you'd watch, wouldn't you?
I'd watch. If he came, oh my God, if he came out in full Paolo makeup,
my
I'd
God.
die right there. That'd be great. It's
That
me,
would be-
Paolo. Here to present best visual effects. Here we go.
It's a missed opportunity if there ever was one. I mean,
It's not too late. They could get him.
No, but they settled for
Amy Schumer.
Yeah. We'll get to that. This is it was a great scene, great iteration, and just another reminder that Matt Reeves' The Batman is a great fucking movie. And I'm really saddened to hear that getting lost in all the shuffle, it looks as if it's not going to be able to crack $1 billion because there seems to be yet another COVID surge happening overseas that's going to prevent it from catching that.
Yeah.
It's performing really strongly domestic, but it's also, on the other hand, just kind of it's weird how this film came out earlier this month, and yet Spider-Man No Way Home is still like fucking like dominating all and every discussion on film Twitter, and I'm just sick of it.
I mean, it's in a negative light, but yeah.
It's a very, and we'll get to that later on. For me, what did I see this week real quick? What did I fucking... Oh, yeah, I saw Bo Burnham's Inside.
Oh.
Yeah. You did not mention that was a musical.
Oh, I thought you just knew.
No. You know me. I'm stupid. I mean, you think the poster, because he had a piano.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Put two and two together, but
it's
no.
literally a piano in front of a mic. I don't know. Like, that's literally Bo Burnham's whole thing.
I didn't know that.
Oh.
I only know Bo Burnham as, like,
Actor?
I guess as a comedian, but as a director and an actor, yeah. I mean, I know his background was in YouTube, but, like, I didn't know of it, like, or it really, so... There was that. He's pretty fucking phenomenal as a comedian. And talent. The thing is, the man is just talented all around. Mm-hmm. An actor, a director, a songwriter, and a comedian, an artist of all kinds. In many ways, this does function as a documentary. I mean, it kind of is really a documentary for like the madness that a lot of people, I would say, experienced during the first year of the pandemic, mm-hmm. where there were no vaccines. And everybody had to be indoors the entire time. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of what happens. And holy fucking shit. It's I mean, yes, it's funny. It's also quite damning. And it takes a turn. Because it's like song after song. It's like pretty like funny. But then it's like, oh, this is not funny anymore. This is just kind of like, oh, okay. But the songs are fucking great. And also he can sing too. It's like, goddamn, like how the level of talent he works with, and these lyrics are beautiful as well.
Jack of all trades.
Seriously. Was there a particular favorite song that you recall?
I have a particular love for White Woman's Instagram.
That's amazing. I love it.
I like it because there's so many layers to it. Because I think
It is,
ultimately it's about empathizing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, it starts out and it's like, okay, we're making fun of white women, right?
Yeah.
Like the silly, stupid...
White women's Instagram,
Yeah. And then it reaches a point where you're at the height of your laughter, and then it brings you down. It's like, oh, they're a human being. And it starts singing about like, oh, I miss you, Mom. It's been 10 years since you've been gone. Say hi to Dad.
Yeah.
And then immediately goes back to the humor, right? But you've already been sort of... you're like, oh, this is a person, right? So I don't know. His songs are very
just
clever.
funny.
Yeah,
it's not just funny. There's some emotion in there as well, and it comes when you least expect it. Like some of the songs, where I think it's one of the ones that he sings at the end with a guitar, and it's kind of melancholy. But then there's also 30, turning 30. Which is pretty interesting when I juxtapose that with the Tick Tick Boom opening song.
You really love that.
But it was a great song, though. Yeah. And I some of these lyrics just stick out, like, now all my stupid friends are having stupid children. The ones that I would say I particularly liked, I love the opening content. Daddy made you your favorite open line.
Yeah, that's great.
I love that. And then there's that's how the world works with the sock puppet.
Yeah. Oh God.
I mean that just speaks to me. And I mean that right there is like the duality of me being in the education system. Because the first half it's like what I have to say, and the second half is what I want to say. It's great fucking stuff, honestly. Yeah. Great music as well. I would consider this, I know like it was labeled as like a variety, not a variety, but a comedy special, and that's how everybody called it. But like I would, it's a film.
Oh it's yeah, I mean it could be both. It's I think it's
a musical.
It's a beautiful time capsule.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would definitely say that.
And then I also, what did I say? What did I see? I rewatched fucking Cruella.
Why?
Because that movie is so fucking hilarious. Like, I'm not even kidding you. I turned on one scene where she's like in an office in the full Cruella garb. And like, there's the delivery when she's like, "I'm Cruella," and I'm just like cackling because it's just so stupid.
It's so stupid.
I love it though. I love the just dumbness, like just the slapstick of Emma Thompson. Like, you know that scene where she's opening up champagne and the cork hits the waiter in the eye. I love that.
The girl bossification of a Disney villain. And the lengths they go to try to make that not be silly, but it just makes it a million times sillier.
I love the silliness.
I hate the film, but it's a wonder. Some of the thing, like the whole thing with like her mom isn't her mom, and she thought she killed her.
Yeah,
the Dalmatians killed her.
That has to be the funniest sequence in the whole movie. When I remember the first time I saw that, when the Dalmatians like literally jumped the mom and she fell over a cliff. I was laughing so hard because that was shot in a way where like, how can you not laugh?
You don't get it. The only reason why she wants to skin Dalmatians is because they murdered her mother.
You see, that's why I really love this movie, because like, how can I stay mad at it when it's that funny? When I find that much humor in it, I just can't. I can't.
And then, oh my God, what's her name? I wanted to say Emma Thompson. Although I guess she is in this one.
Emma Stone.
Yes, darling. Like the whole fucking movie. Shut the fuck up. Okay.
It's a hell of a lot. Well, let's get into this. Let's go ahead and go into the movies that we saw. Licorice Pizza. It's been a long time coming.
Pizza.
I wonder where that name came from, or the idea for that title.
Right? Like, I kept waiting for someone to say the words licorice pizza, and they did not.
No.
Licorice Pizza, directed by Paul W. Anderson. Set in the San Fernando Valley in the 1970s, the film follows a high school student who is also a successful child actor. That's it. That's the description. Cast: Alana Hayim, Cooper Hoffman, Sean Penn, Tom Waits, Bradley Cooper, Benny Safdie. I liked when he showed up. And I don't know, other fucking people. Written,
I thought you might.
Directed, cinematography, produced by Paul W.S. Anderson. Okay.
Real quick, can you remind me what the Safdie brothers, besides Uncut Gems, which everybody wants to suck its dick, what else have they made?
Well, first of all, shame on you, because that's a terrific film. But
yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah. I mean, go fuck yourself.
Okay.
Good Time.
Yeah. Same to you.
Good Time starring
Okay.
Robert Pattinson. In which, I mean, I don't know if you saw at this point, but there was a nod to Good Time in the Batman. Did you see it?
No. How would I? I don't know. I haven't seen
you
the
know
film.
nothing about Good Time. Okay. Well, on Halloween, during that little intro at the beginning of the movie, the convenience store being robbed is called Good Time. It's in the little sign. And then the robber is wearing the same getup as Robert Pattinson's character from the film.
Okay.
It's a neat little...
Cool.
Yeah. And also heaven knows what.
So Licorice Pizza.
Yeah, so Licorice Pizza. You really love this film.
I had an amazing time watching this. I may have mentioned it before, but I had the privilege of going to Los Angeles.
Oh, here he goes. Go ahead.
When I paid my own way, I went to go visit a friend, and we went to go see this film when it was playing limited release in only Los Angeles and New York. I'll tell you something. Now, this is an old theater, very old school. Big, though. Had a balcony seating as well. And it was packed. And it was something of a marvel, no pun intended, to be able to see a film like this, but with the same kind of fervor and enthusiasm and scope that would accompany basically all Marvel movies. Because when let's be real. I mean, I loved a lot of films last year, like West Side Story and Nightmare Alley, but nobody was there with me. I mean, I basically didn't have like a theatrical experience in the sense that I was able to like experience it alongside other people, because there were no other people at all. Or even if there were like maybe one or two, they weren't making noise. It was just me alone in it, and that was that. And I'm not saying that that isn't also counts as a theatrical experience, but not in the way that I think with event movies like Marvel stuff. So with Licorice Pizza, the fact that I was able to kind of like have a huge audience there, kind of like you're able to kind of like feed off their energy. And from the get-go, like this crowd was like laughing their asses off the entire movie. There is just so much about the film in and of itself that is just fundamentally speaking entertaining. The kind of entertainment that's just kind of like, that's so funny and ridiculous, but it just works. Like that whole sequence with Sean Penn in the middle of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
I kept I was losing my shit when I was rewatching it a few days ago. It's like, oh my god, that is so funny. This really, it's just a very delightful movie. It is, I think a lot of films this past year can kind of qualify as this kind of description, which would be a slice of life movie. Like whatever description you gave for what this film is about. Really, the film is about these two people who, through a series of misadventures, realized there is a growing fondness between them. And you really do see that romance blossoming through a whole bunch of sideshow events that makes for a highly entertaining experience. It's not something that you necessarily feel like, oh, I know where this is going entirely. But it's a film where the craft is so great. The direction, the dialogue. I mean, the comedy is so on point. And the performances are so good, particularly with Alana Haim and Cooper Hoffman, that you just like go with it. I will admit the film did lose something seeing it on rewatch, not having the theatrical people like laughing.
No one there to stand up and cheer when Benny Safdie entered the screen.
Literally, yeah. But it's still a great movie. And it feels like one of those films I could just put on any time and just like really enjoy. And from what I hear, this is like the lightest fare we've gotten from Paul Thomas Anderson. I mean, definitely compared to Phantom Thread, which is a whole different animal altogether. A great movie. So great fucking movie. But Phantom Thread and Licorice Pizza could not be more different.
It reminded me most of Boogie Nights. Might also be the time period too. But Boogie Nights obviously I think was darker in a lot of areas.
Mm-hmm.
But similarly, when it's just these people in this certain time period, just like living, making their way through life, and some funny circumstances happen. Yeah.
So the floor is yours.
Oh yes, the floor is mine. Licorice Pizza. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good film.
It's a very enjoyable movie.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to see people walking away like not having a good time, at least.
Well, maybe if you don't enjoy statutory rape.
I thought you were going to say the other thing, but...
there's another thing? Oh, no.
Well, let's not get... Well, we'll probably have to get into that, but at the moment, you were saying.
No, I enjoyed it. Like, it is very slice of life. It's literally just these people met, they grow a connection, and they're just kind of going through life. And one of them is a schemer, just, trying to make it. And the other one desperately wants purpose and just connection, and they're both very funny yet flawed individuals, and they just sort of get into little misadventures. I until thinking about the film, I didn't realize how sort of episodic it is. Like
it is very much that way.
Okay, now this happened with these characters. Okay, now this is happening with these characters. And then like this is the part where they open up the business. And then here's where they run into these people. And then this is where they run into these people.
If Netflix got their hands on this, they'd chop it up into a miniseries.
Yes. But they did not. And of course it's well directed. I mean, it's Paul Thomas Anderson. It's absolutely well directed.
Did you see the way that camera moved and the cuts? And it's the craft really elevates it. It really does.
Oh yeah. It's a director's film.
Yeah,
if you will.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, I can definitely understand why PTA continuously gets nominated for Best Director and also for this movie. Like, yeah, I see it.
It's great. That's great. A lot of great actors. A lot of celebrities that I like show up. Or it's just like, oh, fun to see pop up. Like, hey, this guy, this dude. I think the kid's mom, if I remember, that was his mom, is the waitress from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So I was like, hey, you're there. Of course, Benny Safdie. And there's a few other, like, A-listers that just pop up. Or A-listers in my heart. Did you... Oh, you probably didn't see it. But did you see what I sent you?
You need to clarify what it is you sent me.
With Kevin Smith.
Oh, no, I didn't. Go ahead. Tell me what it was.
No, I can't just tell you. The storytelling he does with it is what makes it funny. But
okay, well, we'll watch it next time and we'll get back on that.
I wanted you to see it for this review. God damn it! That's why
you should have clarified. Alexis, see this video for the purposes of this review. At no point did you mention this would be relevant to this episode.
I did. Okay, whatever. But John Peters is kind of pretty famous for anyone that has seen those classic Kevin Smith discussions, because that's one of his all-time great stories about when he worked on the script for the Superman movie that was never made. Because John Peters directed the 1989 Batman movie by Tim Burton. He was one of the producers. He was like on set every day, And then when they were going to do the Tim Burton Superman film, Kevin Smith wrote the first script that they then got him to come in and stuff like that. And he had to work with John Peters. And he has a great story about what a crazy motherfucker he is. And one of the lines that he says in that video from, like, I don't know how old that is now, like 13 years, probably more.
20 over 20 years, probably.
He talks about how John Peters, after he read the script, he looked at him, he's like, you and I, we're going to make a great Superman movie. He's like, you know how I know? We're both from the streets. And Kevin Smith is like, I never grew up anywhere near the streets. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But he threw out that line like, we're from the streets. And then when that line was used in the movie, he says that to the kid. I forget his name. He's like, I like that. I see what you have in you. You're from the streets like me. So it feels like Paul Thomas Anderson had watched that Kevin Smith story and fallen so in love with him. He's like, I gotta put this character in a movie. And then he did. So I don't know, just because I had heard An Evening with Kevin Smith. That's where a lot of his stories, you know, back in the day, he would do that a lot, where he would just sell out auditoriums and just tell stories, his weird Hollywood stories. And that was one of the biggest ones. I remember hearing it a long time ago and just laughing my ass off. So then when I'm like, wait, that's the John Peters from that fucking story? At first I wasn't sure. But then when he said the, like, we're from the streets thing, I was like, oh my God, it's him.
Wow.
Yeah. I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit. I don't know. It made me
I mean, I did not know that, but that's pretty fucking funny.
Yeah. It's very funny. The punchline to that whole story is killer. You need to watch it. Yeah, no, overall, I really enjoyed it. I was like, this is a cute, unbelievably well made, just like chill movie, right? Like it's just like these funny, interesting people, you know, blossoming romance, and just sort of living with them for a little bit. Like, because like when it ends, I was actually kind of like shocked when it ended. I was like, oh, I guess this is the end, because it could have gone for another, I don't know how long, because it to me, it really just kind of ends. Because they kind of run off together, but they've been running off together.
But there is a sense of finality.
Huh?
There is, I would say, a sense of finality to it, because I feel like that's kind of a moment where they begin to be together.
Sure. She does say, like, I love you, I think, as they run off and stuff.
They do, both of them.
Yeah, but, like, they've been running off together, like, 5 times in that goddamn film. They could have got... For me, it is one of those stories where it's, like, almost where it ends doesn't matter, because you could imagine and going it on for another half hour, another 5 hours, or ending an hour before. Like it really is just you peeking in on these people's lives. I will say, I mean, it is about a relationship between a child and an adult. Like, a lot of people try to paint it like, well, no, not really. Oh, yes, really, it is. Like, it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. Like, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's a movie, so it's like, I
mean, there's that, right?
Yeah.
It is a movie. It's not exactly real life. Do you feel like that
but also,
is
like,
harmful?
She would be arrested.
No, not in 1970, whatever.
No, well, yeah, no, probably not then. But, like, I'll put it this way: if, like, a news story came out tomorrow and it's like, oh, 28-year-old teacher has been sexting with their 15-year-old student, we'd say burn in hell, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, at the end of the day, like, I'm not like angry or anything, or like
I don't care.
or canceling the movie, because it's a movie.
I don't
and movies
care,
are
man.
about, like, because there's another movie I watched this year that is about a much more unsavory individual. But yeah, I mean, movies are about people, and people are not black and white, they're gray, right? So for me, like, it's fine. But I will say, people lied. People, like, in an effort to defend the film, they said, like, oh, it's not about that. It's like, yeah, it is. I still enjoy the film as a film, and as a story, and as interesting characters, and, you know, as a fantastic piece of filmmaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at me with, like, like you don't trust me. I don't know.
No, I just have nothing to say.
Okay. Then I guess we've said everything we can.
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
Now let's talk about Dude, Where's My Car?
Fucking memes, man.
Hitting the liquor hard tonight? Okay. Drive My Car. Directed by
Ryusuke Hamaguchi,
yes,
starring Hidetoshi Nishijima, and other people. Don't even bother. Come on, let's just be real.
Okay, sure.
I mean, if you want to, go ahead, but I don't know why. What would the point
will
be?
Yusuke Kafuku, a stage actor and director, still unable after 2 years to cope with the loss of his beloved wife, accepts to direct Uncle Vanya at a theater. Uncle Vanya at a theater festival in Hiroshima.
I don't know why I even bothered correcting.
There he meets Miyazaki, an introverted young woman appointed to drive his car, hence the name. In between rides, secrets from the past and heartfelt confessions will be unveiled. And then starring people whose names I can't pronounce.
Nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best
Foreign
Adapted
film.
Screenplay, and Best International Film at the Academy
Oh, it's
Awards.
international. It's not foreign anymore. Right.
It used to be, foreign language, and then it was renamed to Best International.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Because it really was that to begin with,
Yeah.
international movie.
Because you can make an American film that's like
Mm-hmm.
all in Spanish or some shit. I don't know.
It is the first international entry from Japan to be nominated for Best Picture.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy to me. Oh.
Yeah, the same way Roma was the first entry from Mexico to be nominated for Best Picture.
Who's getting all the nominations every year then? What the fuck?
Americans, probably.
For the international?
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing is, it used to be before international films didn't get nominated for Best Picture. Like never.
Oh, for Best Picture. I thought you meant for the category of international.
Oh, no.
Okay. For Best Picture, okay, I can see that.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing. They just would never nominate them.
Although Roma was the first film from Mexico to win Best International Film.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. See, that's one where I can go like surprising.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Pan's Labyrinth? Oh, I guess Pan's Labyrinth was like Spanish? It's like Spanish.
I'm not clear on how many trophies that movie collected, if any at all.
I'm almost 100% sure it won Best International or Best Foreign Film. But I don't know if it was Mexican. I think it was like
well, it takes place in Spain.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when I say Spanish, I mean like Spain. That Spanish.
So it could have been from the country of Spain?
Maybe, yeah. I know Del Toro's Mexican. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who cares? It won. It deserved it.
Yeah, that's all that matters,
It was
right?
Best Picture that year, okay? I don't know what won that year, but I guarantee you.
No, but international movies have been getting into Best Picture lately, I think Another Round got in Best Picture last year. Did it or did it not? Well, even if it did, there was also Parasite, and now
Parasite won, of course.
Yeah, famously so. The only one to ever win Best Picture from international entry.
It's I saw a tweet that was so funny. It was like something like rich people, because you know how there was that whole scare thing when the Joker came out, or the Joker film.
Yeah,
it was like rich people feared Joker, then loved Parasite, which I think is very funny. Which is true, because it's insane how many like rich people like almost verbatim the rich people from the movie Parasite like watched that movie, and then we're like, oh my god, it was such a good movie, I really liked it. And it's like, did you get anything from
movie?
it? Like, what do you see when you see that film? Like, that's so crazy to me. Anyway, hey, drive my car.
Yeah.
It is. I really liked it a lot.
Did you?
Why do you say it like that?
Mm.
You're just questioning.
I questioned because someone told me you told me that you turned it off halfway through to watch Lego Batman.
No,
that's not a bad option
turned
to
off
switch.
Licorice Pizza halfway through to watch Lego Batman.
You're a bullshit artist, man. I have the goddamn text to prove you fucking wrong.
You know what?
We were talking. Yeah, let's pull them up right now because I am sick of you. I am sick of your shit here because this is not fair. Like, we talk about a certain movie and then you're confusing one with the other. This happened like Sunday. This happened Sunday. I was asking you about Drive My Car, and you said that you fucking turned it off halfway through to go watch Lego Batman movie.
Where's
Let me
Sunday?
see here.
Where's Sunday? You piece of shit. Let me see.
Okay, apologies for the dead air, people, but this is what it is. Where the hell are the fucking messages?
Okay. See, no. There was
No, you see, there it
there was
is.
communication error. There was
A
communication error.
miscommunication? Okay.
There was communication.
Explain the
error.
miscommunication.
Okay, because we were messaging because I was trying to get to see
Licorice Pizza.
because it was on the fucking Voodoo, and that I was watching that the whole time. And when you messaged me, I thought you were talking about Licorice Pizza. So I was like, oh no,
When
I
I
turned
said
it halfway
what?
and I watched, because in that moment I was watching Lego Batman because I had turned off Licorice Pizza because I had watched like an hour of it, and then I switched over to Lego Batman in that moment. So when you messaged me back, I assumed you were talking about Licorice Pizza. I watched Drive My Car today.
Okay. I believe you, but it's like you look at how these messages are
I
arranged.
know, I
'cause
get
what
it.
I messaged,
No.
what I messaged to you
Mhm.
was, by the way, if you get the chance tonight, might as well drive my car out of the way. And then you immediately respond with, I turned it off halfway and watched Lego Batman. And in my mind, I was talking about Drive My Car.
Mhm.
And what you had responded was like, fuck that movie. I was bored and I went to go watch Lego Batman. That's what I thought you were saying.
No.
And that's why I responded with like, are you being for real, man? You weren't into it? And then you were like, it's cute.
Yeah, Licorice
And I thought
Pizza
you were talking
is
about,
cute.
but I thought you were talking about the other movie, not
Drive My
Licorice
Car
Pizza.
is not cute. Come on.
It's not. That's why I was like, what the fuck is this person on?
Clearly, I was talking about Licorice Pizza.
No, you. Oh my god.
Of the two
Fuck.
films, which one is cute? Okay, you knew in that moment I was supposed to be watching Licorice
But I was asking you about another movie.
Okay. Agree to disagree.
Agreed. Oh my.
I think he's giving up.
This is too stupid for it. I can't. We're too smart for this. Like, really? This happened? Like,
Wait,
I knew
better than
something
this.
didn't add up. Something didn't add up when you responded that way. It's like, did he really just call Drive My Car cute? I know Peter. He'd love this movie. Why would he call it cute? It does not compute.
Clearly.
My mind was exploding.
Clearly, Licorice Pizza is the cute film. Oh gosh. But yes. I turned off Licorice Pizza halfway, and then I watched Lego Batman. Because I don't know, I felt like watching Lego Batman. And then I went back and I finished Licorice Pizza. Which, by the way, that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy Licorice Pizza. I very much did. I just talked about how much I enjoyed the film.
Absolutely.
I like Drive My Car more.
No, I mean, Licorice Pizza is very enjoyable, very loving as well, but there isn't much to say beyond what's there.
Yeah, for sure. It's an experience film.
Absolutely. Drive My Car, there's a lot more to peel back.
Yes. Boy, you weren't kidding when you said 40 minutes in is when the credits start.
Can you believe that shit? Like, it's hilarious how much crap we were giving No Time to Die, which I recently rewatched. And it was hilarious because I remember, at least it felt that way, that the opening credits when the song, the Billie Eilish song came on, it felt like it was already like 40 minutes into the movie. But in reality, it was only 23 minutes.
Mm-hmm. This was 40. And what's funny is, like, I can imagine a version of this film that's 2 hours long. That starts at him getting the
After the prologue.
yeah, like getting the job in Hiroshima, and then
the prologue is 40 minutes.
yeah, like it starts there, and then you peel back the layers of the story, from the driving, obviously.
Right.
But this film was like, no, like,
No.
here's everything first, all 40 minutes of it, and then a whole other movie, like a whole
And sit
other
there and
experience. Yeah, but I really enjoyed the story and the characters. I enjoyed the pacing because
Yeah.
I was really trying to. Oh my god, 3 hours, and even you were preparing.
Everybody in the world who saw the film the very same thing, and I'm there with you. 3 hours.
Because it's not even
3
like
hours.
2 hours and 40 minutes. It's 2 hours and 59. Like, it's on the dot. It's hitting that 3. Okay.
Yeah. It's funny how we complain about that, although we watched 3 hours of Endgame or 3 hours of the Batman.
I didn't complain with the Batman. Well, no, even with the Batman, I said I felt the length.
You complained, yeah. It's like it didn't need to be 3 hours.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess, like, even though I myself have, like, long said on the show that we need to get away from this mentality as a society that slow movies are inherently bad or that slowness in a film is inherently bad. Part of my trepidation for this film in particular is because I listen to a lot of the reaction, and it very much, even through the trailers or the previews, or what was being said, came across as a film that was very deliberate in its pacing. And sometimes, slow films can be a struggle.
For sure.
That ain't to say that it's not great. A lot of slow films are great. It's just that
I think a lot of slow films are designed to be a struggle. Like, I think sometimes that's part of the experience.
Mm-hmm.
That could be part of it. But here, it's the reason why I say it's well paced is because I never felt like, okay, like, hurry it up.
It's a going. Yeah.
Because even though it's very...
like Hawkeye, you mean?
Yeah. But even though obviously it's a slower pace, it's 3 fucking hours. There is a slower pace to it. I feel like there's always something going on. Because even when he's just driving his car, like in that first 40 minutes, vital information is being conveyed to you about his character and his state of mind and what he's feeling, even in those scenes where he's just driving, right? And then even beyond that, when there are slow scenes, again, in the first 40 minutes where he's just talking to his wife, to me, there is vital information being conveyed to the audience about these two people. And that happens again throughout the rest of the film. And I think the pace really helps with lulling you into his routine, because to me the pace of the movie and I don't know what you would say, the vibe, the tone of the film very much matches the outer representation of our main character, in which it feels almost repressed, because he's very much emotionally repressed, and he isn't capable of displaying any sort of outward heavy emotion, whether that be sadness or anger or love. And he's just kind of cool as a cucumber from the outside, and until he isn't. There's a lot with this film. I really enjoyed it.
There's so much that it's probably impossible for us to go through all of it. We will try. I did. Your usage of the word lull reminded me that I had forgotten to recount as one of the things that I had rewatched recently was David Lowery's The Green Knight.
Ooh, yeah.
A film
that's a lullaby.
That's the thing, though. I actually kind of love that movie. But I would say, though, the lullaby aspect of it can be to a fault.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a little bit too effective, because if you're not careful, sometimes you could knock out and and then wake up and... But it's a great movie. Mm-hmm. So there's that. I agree with every word that you said. Look, I guess, I don't know if it's just to give you like big picture, small picture. My initial experience watching the film was very positive. But again, like, the film is very deliberate, and there are powerful sequences, And there are captivating exchanges that happen throughout the film. But I feel like for me, while I appreciated all that stuff and I got it completely, this is fucking great. It really wasn't until like the days following I finished the film where I realized just how good it was because of how it stayed in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And because of how the images like are just with me. And I know, lately especially, I've really connected with a film if it's just like stayed with me. Like it continues to stay with me. And I continue to think about this moment and that moment. And wasn't this great here? Overall, for me, I loved it. I liked it a lot the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I like you. I think I felt a lot like you did because you just watched it today, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I'm really curious to see how you feel in about a week or two. See if it stays with you. Because for me, I've had like at least 2 or 3 weeks now since it dropped on HBO Max to live with this film. And it's great. I mean, no joke. It is like, you see why this got the Best Picture nomination and the Best Director nomination.
Mm-hmm.
And you see why, because it's kind of universal. And I think it speaks to the fact that however disappointed and however frustrating it is that the Academy likes a certain kind of movie and inevitably awards a certain kind of movie, they still nominated this.
Yeah.
They still went out of their way, even though we know the story is how lazy they can be. They have their own private streaming service, so they have all the For Your Consideration nominees there. And we heard the stories of a lot of Academy members like being hesitant to watch this film because they saw the 3-hour runtime. A lot of us understandably were. But they saw it. And once they saw it, they liked it enough, so much so, that it got the Best Picture nomination. So I think that really speaks volumes of, the quality for this film. I called it deceptively quiet because it's kind of quiet at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I feel that the prologue happens and we get to where we're going to be, and I think Hiroshima.
Yeah, Hiroshima.
Interesting setting.
Yeah, you would feel that it would be, I don't know, somewhat artistically deliberate in some way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Man, I really struggle to find the right words to describe how good this was, because I think to me, Drive My Car kind of stands apart from literally just about every other movie I've seen this year. That isn't to say that I'm singling out this as the best movie of the year. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that it feels different. And a lot of the stuff in it is just unique.
I will say,
how it's presented.
I will say, in the craft, it was somewhat similar to me, at least, to Power of the Dog.
Mm.
But with Power of the Dog, whereas yeah, this is unbelievably well made. I just kind of, it's whatever for me. This is something where it's this hit with me, this.
Oh, yeah.
This worked for me in ways that just didn't when it came to Power of the Dog.
Yeah, there's a substance in there that really just appeals and kind of connects really at the end of the day. Because this film ultimately is about grief.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And sort of recontextualizing those relationships in your life, right? And kind of, how do you say it? Examining the past and coming to terms with it.
Our main lead here is a very reserved fella, isn't he? Very reserved. By the way, Hidetoshi, great performance. I do believe he ended up winning Best Actor at the Japanese Academy Awards.
I would hope so.
I would hope so too, because I think, look, a lot of the times people also, they have this misconception that the bigger performance, the more over-the-top performance, the more acting, quote-unquote, you see in a performance, the better. That isn't necessarily the case. personally, for my money, the same way I felt that Nicolas Cage should have gotten a nomination here, also the same way I felt that Mads Mikkelsen should have gotten a nomination last year for Another Round.
Yeah.
I think Hidetoshi should have been like in the discussion to get the best actor
100%.
nomination here.
I mean, this isn't fair because I haven't seen what's his
King Richard?
I haven't seen King Richard, but I can't imagine I'd like that performance better than
No.
this one.
No, because King Richard, we've mentioned, it's a great movie. It's a great old-fashioned movie. It's a great classic biopic performance. And Will Smith gave it his all, and it works the way you think it would. But it's pretty by the numbers in comparison to what else has been awarded and all that's come out. What you have with Hidetoshi and his performance is that you have a character that's really lost a lot. He's lost a daughter, and he's recently lost his wife. And he's just kind of like going through the motions. And it's striking from the beginning, and even more as the film goes on for a long stretch, to see this man just like continue on, and yet you know there's a lot going through him in his mind, but he doesn't show it very often. And I think one of the attributes of among many, by the way, but one of the attributes of what makes this film so powerful is how much is conveyed without saying anything and letting the actors just tell you through their expressions about what they're thinking, ultimately. And you see it in the moments in the prologue when he discovers that Otto's been cheating on him.
Yeah.
With a younger guy that's also connected to the acting world. He just walks in. There was a mishap with his plane getting rescheduled, his flight anyway. He comes back to the apartment and he discovers them. And you think, at least for me, like, you've been through enough of these storylines where you think, oh, this is he may even just like yell at them or like, hey, what the hell or what the fuck. He sees it. He absorbs it. Not much of a reaction from his face.
Mm-hmm.
He just walks out and doesn't bring it up. Mm-hmm. And that's already saying a lot about like who these people are.
Yeah. I mean, of course, my first reaction was, you bitch. Because, I mean, unless you're a cheater yourself, I feel that would be everyone's first reaction. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, even throughout that prologue, but especially throughout the rest of the film, there is this realization that he shut her out emotionally a long time ago.
Yeah.
And
you don't get that at the beginning, at least.
Yeah,
not
entirely. You see hints of it, but it really does come out. And, you know, it doesn't make what she did okay, but it does add this extra layer, because even in all that happened,
a layer of understanding, to be clear.
Yeah, for sure. And there is, you know, he doesn't scream about it. He's not angry about it. He's just sort of, he's almost floating through life.
Yeah.
And just kind of like, oh, okay, like just whatever happens, and everything is repressed. And there are moments where she tries to reach to him. Like she'll tell him, like, I love you. Like, I love you so much. And, you know, this. And he just kind of looks at her like, thank you. Right? And he's sort of emotionally checked out.
Even while they're having sex.
Yeah, for sure.
She's very into it.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that was an amazing scene. I love that little thing where it's like, Otto, his wife, has these stories, these very
particular stories,
erotic storytelling that she has.
Oh, yeah,
and she uses those stories to, I guess, get herself in the mood. It's a really interesting.
It seems like a creative process. I don't know.
It's also, yeah, because she's also a storyteller herself. So yeah, it's pretty unique, right? As I mentioned before, it's pretty unique to see it. But you see it even in that sequence. He should be passionate about that, but he just doesn't seem to be. Mm-hmm. Whereas she is giving it her all.
Yes.
And he's just not. And you get that off the top. And there are some things that strike you And they're kind of clues because they're not dwelled on.
Mhm.
Like, for example, earlier on when, he's performing on Covania, where they live, and she introduces a young actor who at that moment we come to understand is just an admirer, right? Or a fan. And then it ends up being that, no, he's the guy that she's having an affair with.
Mm-hmm.
But one little thing, and I wonder if you caught this, where the young actor referred to Otto as Hidetoshi's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, don't call me his wife.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I noticed that too.
And they are married.
Well, clearly, yeah. Everyone says your wife, husband.
Yeah.
But no, like when the movie first started, there was a little bit of like, well, what's their relationship? I'm a little confused, right? And of course, in the next 3 hours, it became more evident. But in that initial, it's like, okay, well, they're together. In some capacity, is this an affair that they need to hide? Is this just are they just very formal people? Like what is this?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, yeah, it's little moments like that. Like at the beginning, when she questioned him, like, did you ever want to have kids again? And he's like, maybe, I don't know. But that whole line of questioning implies a history there with children now lost, right? Which then you can infer to his sort of repressed emotional state. Maybe that has a good deal to do with it. Which, by the way, I could be 100% wrong, and there's probably no right answer. But one of my assumptions would have been, because, the night she died from an aneurysm, aren't aneurysms scary? It's just, you're just like, dead. Like you don't even know it's coming.
You just drop dead,
you
basically.
Just fucking drop dead. Crazy. She's like, I really want to talk tonight. I thought maybe that talk was that she was pregnant.
Huh.
Because, she sort of unprompted in that car ride brings up the idea of like children.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was That's just not... one.
That could be.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's an official, direct.
I think it tracks. I think if you want to see it that way, it does track. I didn't think of it before, but the way that you laid it out, that definitely does track for me. I had thought of it as maybe it's time to go our separate ways.
It could be that too.
And that's why he was, because he also says later in the movie, he really went out of his way to like avoid going home because he was afraid that's what she was going to say.
I thought maybe it was sort of like, it could have also just been she wants to come clean about the affair.
That's true. She did seem pretty
guilt. Yeah, I definitely saw guilt. Which to me also led to like maybe the pregnant, it's not his, something like that. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So maybe she just wanted to come clean and just talk about it, because at the end of the day, I think I think he feared losing her. I think he says it, but clearly what he feared more than that was just intimacy. And not like the sexual kind, but just like being open and honest and having that emotional honesty between each other. And I think... Which
is what happens when you close yourself off from humanity.
Yeah, and I think that's what she was looking... Because when she says, like, I want to talk, to me it's almost like, well, they haven't really talked in a long time, right? Like actually talked below the surface type stuff. And I think that's what she was going to try and do. And of course, as repressed as he was, kind of ran away from that. And she died. It's a good movie. Yeah.
No, it's a really good movie. And again, all of that we got into is literally the prologue.
It's the prologue. It's ridiculous.
No, man. Another interesting attribute of the film happens to be the very staging of this play that Hidetoshi, or Nafuku, I think the character's name, is putting on here. And that is, and I've never heard of this. Like to my mind, it kind of doesn't compute until I saw it like actually happen in the film. But the idea of like a stage play production performed in multiple languages, where the actors themselves are speaking different languages that the other actor does not understand.
It's really interesting.
By the way, real quick tidbit, in the sequence where they're rehearsing, well, maybe not rehearsing, but they're doing the reading, the table read.
Yeah.
And Ifuku is being very particular about the actors, like saying, "What are you doing? You're not acting. Just read the words. Be as basically being," which I thought was a funny exchange. "Be as fucking robotic as you can be." And in my mind, I'm like, "Wow, what are you, George Lucas?" But it actually that's a lot of the direction that they received from Ryusuke Hamaguchi.
Basically, like, you're overdoing it.
Just read the words and absorb the words and process them before you act them out. Which is really interesting.
Yeah.
But you're right you were saying about the multilingual approach to this.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that's how they did like a lot of like foreign horror film, like the Italian giallo films. Like the actors would record their lines in their own language, because there would be sometimes, and then they would just dub everything at the end. Yeah. Like every line of dialogue.
Although here it's not dubbed, it's just subbed.
Yeah, it's just
I think what we see ultimately at the end of the film is the people who are watching the play, they're seeing the actual acting going on, but do you see I think the translation, which is, I have to say, I don't know how fun that would be to see when you see subtitles in multiple languages in front of your face and you're trying to like absorb which ones you can understand here.
Yeah.
But I guess that's kind of the point, right? Is to see like one of the, I think, side commentaries of the film is, basically breaching the very barriers of language, like the intersectionality of it all, of the emotion of the performance, just like crossing over, and you getting that exactly. And I think you feel it especially with I forget her name, but the one cast member that can't speak and uses sign language.
Oh yeah, because that's another level to it, right?
Yeah, like how like it's like, I guess like I'm not even sure, quite frankly, if a lot of the cast members in the play were even aware of like how to like communicate using that sign language. She wasn't deaf; she could hear. She just couldn't speak, from what I remember in the film. But it's just crazy to see. One of my favorite scenes in the film is with her and then one of the other female leads in the play, and they're performing it outdoors. And I think what's really, again, that's what I think that scene and many others like it in this film make it among the most unique experiences of the entire year, because forget the language. You're seeing like these two actors within the story of this film have a genuine human connection in a way I don't think I've ever seen before, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's really beautifully and uniquely done. And it's one of those things where it's the film, even though it's beautiful, right? Like visually, it's not flashy. It's nothing crazy. It really is just these
understated, like the rest of the film.
Reminded me a bit of what was the one? Mass?
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I thought that was a beautiful film, but again, it's just it's 4 people in a room. And not a particularly impressive room either.
No. By design, though.
Yeah, for sure, by design. Yeah.
And here we're moving around and everything. Ultimately, though, there is an interesting bond formed between Hidetoshi and then also his driver. And also who is very reserved as well. And like you don't necessarily, I guess at the beginning expect much of a relationship there, but it grows into something genuinely surprising, and I think it really comes to the emotional climax of the film, where at that point they've both really revealed their, shall we say, emotional traumas, and they've gone to a place of significance for her. And they're both just kind of like, that's the moment of the movie where we finally see Hidetoshi just like release the grief, release the pain. Again, one of those human moments that you forget you're watching a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You really do. And I think that's the mark of a great film. Go figure.
It's great because
the mark of a great performance.
It's built up throughout the entire film, because at some point you're just like, fucking hit a wall or something, dude. Like
feel something,
dude. Just emote, like
and that comes across a whole movie of him basically having to see the person his deceased wife was having an affair with.
But I mean, it was on purpose, right? Like
yeah,
he picked him for that reason. Yeah, great film.
Yeah, man. Some of the wonderful exchanges that happen in the car itself, like that long one with that guy we just talked about.
Yeah,
that was some of the shots that linger on them and their expressions and the lighting in there. It's like, that's filmmaking, man. Like, I don't know what more you want. This, to me, this is like my mind of a great film. It really is in every sense of the imagination. And that ending, too. That ending, as they close off that stage play. Which is really the whole message of the film. It's a beautiful movie. It is understated. I feel like a lot of people are going to get the impression if they do venture out and see this, like, oh, okay, it was really understated. But I didn't get all that swept up in it. I wouldn't say I did as well as a whole. But it has that effect where it's like, it'll sneak up on you. There are some scenes.
Yeah.
And then after the fact, you're going to be like, wow, that was pretty fucking special.
There are those films where you watch them and you're like, yeah, I liked that. But then it stays with you and you just keep thinking about the film and thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And then it just grows and grows and grows in your mind because of its staying power. I think this is one of those films, right, where you would watch it and you go like, yeah, that was good, and then you go about your day or night because it took so damn long to finish the movie. But it sticks. It has staying power, and I agree. Though to me, those are one of the key signs of a great film. You know, am I still thinking about this a day? 3 days, a week later.
Versus a lot of films you see and then you forget about immediately thereafter.
Yeah, those are the worst films. You see, and then the next day it's like it's already out. Like, not that you forget every little thing that happened in the movie. It's just emotionally, it's gone. Like,
it meant nothing.
Yeah, those are the worst.
It's really, I'm torn because at the end of the day, like, I like to think about, like, well, what would I do if I had an Oscar ballot, right? And I feel like I would love to see Dune win Best Picture because I think it deserves it. because I think it really did, like, it was a cinematic moment. At the same time, I feel like I'll have one or two more chances to vote for that to be Best Picture, and what would be maybe a better made movie or a better film in general. Let's say like Dune Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd vote for this one for Best Picture, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I think I would too. Just looking at the other choices, even the good ones.
And that ain't to say it's our favorite of the year. I'm just looking at what was nominated and looking at the pack.
Yeah.
There being some great films in that pack. This just seemed like the one, like, yeah, I think this is kind of an achievement. This is the one I would go, yeah, it's this one.
I would agree. I would probably go in that direction too. Because I wanted to vote for Dune Part 2 against Avatar Part 2.
Yeah, well. Or maybe Avatar Part 3.
Oh, yeah, I think it would be Part 3, actually.
Yeah. So go watch this, please, guys. I know it's 3 hours, but it's on HBO Max. It's really readily available, and I'd recommend anyone that really wants to just like see an interesting and unique story. Again, the worst thing I can ever do is to hype things up for you and to think it's the best thing ever, because like usually what comes across to me as something that is great to me, in a lot of ways can only be great to me. In some ways, it's obviously, it never will be like universal to everybody, because everybody is their own person, everybody has their own taste, and everybody has their own likes. And however much I may bitch, and believe me, I will, give me a minute, about the things that bother me about like what is prioritized over others in terms of like what they look for in movies. Again, what I go back to is just, please, just try and watch things that you wouldn't go out of your way to see normally. Yeah. Just experiment. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. I'm not saying like watch this 1912 experimental 6-hour movie. Like don't get that weird with it in the beginning. No. Just be like, what's a film you like?
You mean 1917?
1917. So what did I say?
1912.
I'm saying like an old ass movie. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Oh,
yeah. I didn't mean the movie. A film
made from the year 1912.
Yes. I didn't mean the movie literally 1917. God damn it. See, this is why we miscommunicate. But no, like just I guarantee you there's gonna be movies that will catch your interest, but you'll just go like, nah, like I'll go watch the next Marvel, or I'll go watch this, I'll go watch that. Like here's a good example, right? We Spider-Man, Batman. I think it was Batman, the last one we saw. Multiverses are all the rage, right? We saw a trailer for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
All at once.
Yeah. There's action. There's memorable stars in that film. I guarantee you that's an out there film, but it seems like there's a leeway in if you're a regular movie, a general movie audience that doesn't stray from your taste, there's enough in there to get you in, to help the medicine go down, you'll say, to help with trying something new. Check out that movie. Okay,
I mean, if you love multiverse films, there's no reason why you wouldn't be interested in this. Huh?
There's Kung Fu. There's what's her name? The famous actress.
I think A24 has done a spectacular job of promoting this movie.
Yes. The Northman. That's another movie I'm very excited.
And they also have they have 10 out right now. Is it called 10 or X?
X.
Okay, the horror film.
That's another thing. You're into horror movies?
Yeah.
Check it out. It might be up your alley, and it's a little different. I hear. Yeah. There you go. Broaden your horizons.
Yes, absolutely. Well, shall we, I guess, use this as a leeway to transition basically to what we were commenting a little bit right now, and that would be the Academy Awards. I guess since we've mentioned we were talking about the quality of film and trying new films, I guess we should just go ahead and get into this. Uh, I'm really kind of like, okay, we already know what's going to happen here. Coda will be proclaimed Best Picture on the Academy Awards. By the time this episode drops, the Academy Awards are basically happening that day.
Mm-hmm.
And my prediction, well, I guess I'll just go ahead and like list. I think it's already kind of a lock that, as far as the major categories are concerned, so Best Supporting Actor will go to Troy Kotsur from Coda.
Mm-hmm.
Best Supporting Actress will be Ariana DeBose for West Side Story. Mm-hmm. I think we're looking at Coda winning Adapted Screenplay. And as far as what original screenplay is concerned, that could go any number of ways. I mean, I don't know, honestly. Who knows? But Will Smith will win Best Actor, and I think more than likely Jessica Chastain will win Best Actress. And then we have, which that should really, imagine Grace Randolph's reaction to Jessica Chastain winning Best Actress. She probably won't even address it. And then Jane Campion will win for Power of the Dog, Best Director, and Coda is going to win Best Picture, going for 3 for 3. And I feel like, yeah.
No, I would agree with all of that.
Yeah, I think that's just a consensus there because of where it's going, and I feel like part of what there's a lot of layers to what frustrates me about this. The first of which happens to be the fact that Coda is, look, it's a very good movie, but let's be real here. I think a lot of people themselves are kind of caught by surprise that the Academy even thought to include it, much less actually included in its list of 10 best movies of 2021. I've seen the film. I really like the movie. And I admit my love, I think part of what's keeping me from loving it is the fact that, well, it didn't stay with me at all. And the only reason I think about it is because, people seem to overly love it. And again, I never want to be the kind of person that like sits here and is bothered by anybody else's like enthusiasm or love for a film, which also leads into my overall disappointment with what I'm seeing, especially on film Twitter, especially from like these quote unquote like awards pundits and Oscarologists, because I feel like at the end of the day, there was this backlash to the backlash of Coda. So the first backlash was the fact that this movie is now literally like has it in the bag to be proclaimed the best picture of 2021. And I think like if you're that person, because you and I are that person, Peter, there are legitimate reasons to feel a little bit like annoyed by that. The first of which happens to be the fact that it is among one of 10 movies. There are literally 9 other options they could go with, many of which would preferably be the better outcome. Just looking at, how a film is made and everything. And I think a lot of these people are not being honest with themselves about several different things. And that is, the Academy, when they announced their nominees in early February, Coda had no shot because it only got 3 nominations. It only got 3 nominations, and it didn't get a single nomination for any other craft. It didn't get nominated for director. It just got 1 acting nomination, a screenplay nomination, and a picture nomination. That's all it got, was just those 3 nominations. And the only reason it's gotten to this place right now, and I feel like no one is being honest with themselves, and I feel like this could be an opportunity for a lot of the press to just expose this, although the press has no interest in exposing this because they, of course, hobnob and like to profit off of all of this, and they also buy into the bullcrap. Basically, what's happened is the Academy has now, is following the decisions that other guilds before them have made. The Screen Actors Guild, the BAFTA, and the PGA have basically decided that, look, this is a film that we as an industry love and we want to award. And that happens every year, but I guess my ultimate point is this is a perfect example of that the Oscars mean nothing, because there is this like illusion of esteem, but that they themselves kind of like perpetuate that, oh, you know, it's the Oscars, it's the best of the best in film. And I think like this whole like coda surge in the last 3 weeks just kind of goes to show you that no, that's all just bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're getting at, and I mean, obviously I would agree, is that it's a politics game. It's real bullshit, right? I don't think people are especially looking at what the best film of the year is. It's one of those, it's politics. It's a game. You know, if you surge too early, then you're going to fall behind and you're going to lose in the end. But the question is why, right? If you're the best, you should surge throughout the entire time and win. That's what happened to Power of the Dog. I think it surged too early.
It's what happened to Lincoln. It's what happened to Boyhood. Yeah. And it sure as hell happened to La La Land.
Oh, God, yes, right? Yeah, it seems like you just have to get big at a specific moment. Because if you get too big early on, your star will fade. People will be like, well, what about another film? You know, like a shitty attention span, and then move to. That's why films that are released at the beginning of the year have like zero chance, because people just forget, and they're like, "Well, that was at the beginning of the year. Who cares?" All right. That's why they release all the Oscar bait films at the end of the year, for their hope to ride the surge, you know, to the win. Not too late, not too early, but right on time. So, yeah, I mean, I get the frustration, but that's why I've always enjoyed, because I like film. So obviously the Oscars is something that I'm going to take an interest in, but I've never taken it that seriously, because it's bullshit. And we know it's bullshit because every year we listen to the people that vote and they come off like idiots, and we're just like, yeah, it's bullshit.
I mean, that's basically what I'm getting at here, and you summed it up pretty easily. And I think like what's different with this than, I guess, 2018, because 2018, like, the nominees were Green Book, Bohemian Rhapsody, A Star Is Born, Black Klansman, Black Panther, and a whole bunch of other ones. And
Black Panther.
Oh, and Roma. Yeah, Roma. Like, there was one clear choice, which was Roma, and then a whole bunch of other options that were like, yikes, or no thank you. And then it hilariously ended up being a race between Bohemian Rhapsody, Roma, and Green Book.
And the two that were in the top were clearly Green Book and Bohemian Rhapsody. That's insane.
That's a joke.
The fact that Green Book won, oh my god. Okay, yeah. Sorry, it's still not.
But then that isn't all. That also isn't the end of like lunacy, because then it was the next year that they nominated Joker for Best Picture.
I don't know. I still think that's marginally better than Green Book.
Yeah, I would agree to that. You're right, but I guess okay. Let's look at this year. And we talked about it last week. It's like we got great options with we got 10 nominees. Mm-hmm. We just talked about Drive My Car.
Yeah.
There's Dune.
Great.
Licorice Pizza.
Fantastic.
Nightmare Alley.
Oh yeah.
West Side Story.
Great.
Wonderful fucking movies. But realistically speaking, it always was going to come down to Power of the Dog, Belfast, King Richard, or Coda, or maybe even Don't Look Up.
Those are the top 5. And those top 5 are the most uninteresting nominated films. And
I would even say in years.
Yeah. And the bottom 5 are way more interesting, and in my estimation, way better films.
Just great movies all around.
Yeah. And it always seems to end up that way, where it's like, yeah, even if you can get like one of your favorite films of the year nominated, right? Because yeah, that bottom five, love all those. If it was a race between those bottom five, if they were the top 5, oh my god, I'd be so excited. Yeah. It'd be so like if they're like, okay, the race is between Drive My Car,
yeah,
A Nightmare Alley,
and Dune.
Realistically, let's say
West Side
Story, right?
Yeah.
That's a fucking race right there. Yeah. Like that's fun. Like that's I'm all for it.
Because we got all good options there.
All good options, but also like just because I think when I think back to like my favorite night was like of course Parasite, right? And what made
that took the cake.
What made it so great was the actors and their speeches and the director and all of his speeches and you know, just the people behind and in front of the camera. So much fun to see them succeed. And I can see like something like West Side Story being, if it succeeds, really fun, especially with the lead actress, because she's great.
Rachel Zegler.
Yeah, Rachel Zegler. There's a reason why there was a fucking mutiny across.
Which mutiny at this point? There've been so many of them.
Well, specifically with her when she wasn't invited. You know, so many people, you know, pissed and angry and stuff like that. She has a really good media presence. And by media presence, it's just like she's a young kid who's online on Twitter and Instagram and stuff. And she seems like a good person. So it's like, yeah, like fandoms grow behind these types of people, especially in today's day and age. So like that would add a level of fun to the night and the wins. Also something like Nightmare Alley. Guillermo del Toro is always great when he's on stage and has a microphone on his hand. And then even Drive My Car. Again, to have foreign actors up there on stage winning awards, I always take great joy in that. I love it. So to me, the three-way race right there, any outcome, I'm having a good time.
I just remembered Denny was snubbed at the directing.
Yeah, category. He didn't get a director's.
That's fucking crazy to me.
Could you imagine his best director speech?
Yeah.
I am at the night because of the love of movies. This is cinema to me.
He's great, man. I will say, we're kind of like the last time we had a really interesting race, and maybe the most interesting. Remember, there was this one year where it looked like it was coming down between Get Out, 3 Billboards, and The Shape of Water.
Ooh, that's another one. Would have been great.
And one of those did win, which was The Shape of Water.
But again, that's what I mean. That win, that was a great win.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. I was like, yeah. I think that year I was like, I had, my lock was 3 Billboards, but even when it didn't win and The Shape of Water won, I'm like, I'm still happy. I'm still having a good time. Guillermo's up there. If Guillermo's on stage, that's a win. It's a win.
I'm polling for Nightmare Alley to win production design on Sunday. It deserves to win that. At least that.
Oh my gosh. Though, yeah, I agree.
Anything to get that movie something, because it's really underloved in every way imaginable. But you're right, though. That's really what it's come down to. But especially this year, it's like, I think like 2021 to me, maybe why I take it a little bit more personal, is that this is one of my favorite years in movies, and yet this is what they came up with: the race between Coda and The Power of the Dog. Okay.
I feel bad because I don't hate it. It's a good film. I just feel so blah about it. I don't know why.
I would much rather have, at this point, I was going into the season, I was very like unenthusiastic about Dog winning. I'd much rather have that win than Coda.
Oh my god. Yeah. Because there is fantastic filmmaking in Power of the Dog.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's beautifully shot too.
Yeah.
And the acting. Yeah. I mean, so there's that, but then there's also another aspect of what's wrong with the Oscars, right? So, look, what is wrong with the people? I can't believe these people are so fucking stupid. I mean, the people that are in charge of like putting this show on, it's a fucking disaster. You just mentioned the fact that this last week, one of the latest and greatest controversies was Rachel Zegler not getting an invitation to the Academy Awards, and they had to be bullied into giving her an invitation. Of course, you know, put that with the pile of them cutting 8 categories from the live presentation, getting a whole bunch of people pissed off at them in the industry itself. And then also prioritizing like comedy sketches over award presentations.
Oh God, especially with the comedy people they chose.
And the people that they chose to host is just terrible. And then add that to the weird list of presenters that they got. Did you see like Shaun White, DJ Khaled, Tony Hawk are presenting at the Oscars?
Yeah, I don't think they've done this before.
Why would they be there?
I guess they're looking for very broad appeal. Like.
But it's like, okay, listen. First of all, there was a point in time this week where DJ Khaled was going to the Oscars, but not Rachel Zegler.
Yeah, and let's all be honest. At this point, DJ Khaled is just like a mascot. Like, he doesn't... Does he make music? Like, he's like a hype man? I don't know.
I don't know what he is, man.
That's what I mean. He's like a mascot. Yeah. I guess I can say this. They're trying things this year.
But it's like, you just get interesting movie people to be on there. Like, they have nothing to do with this. And, like, the idea that Tony Hawk is going to bring in viewership because he's presenting an award, or even someone more relevant like Shawn Mendes. The idea that anybody would care to watch this whole ceremony just because he's there for like a 2-minute stint is like idiotic.
Yeah, like Tony Hawk, like, I'm sorry, this isn't like 2002. Like, I don't... the kids aren't raving about Tony Hawk. It's weird. And yeah, there's plenty of A-list celebrities that are actors or actresses or tied to the acting world that would be much better fits. But it really does seem this year they're like, maybe last year scared them, and they're like, we need to throw some shit at the wall to try and
evidently the reason it's been revealed that, at least that's what's come out, is the reason why they cut 8 categories is because ABC threatened to cancel them, which it seems kind of inevitable then. Like, if ABC is already like at the point where like, all right, we'll just cancel you then, why not just move on? Because I feel like, I don't know what they think is going to happen. The ratings are never going to come up.
Are they just going to stop broadcasting the Oscars? I don't know.
Well, it just seems kind of like, it seems really dramatic to think that ABC was like ready to cancel them.
Right? Like, it's got to be real bad where they're like, we don't want the Oscars anymore. I don't know. That's crazy to me.
It's sad too.
Yeah. Imagine if last year's was the last ever Oscars ever. Oof.
This could be the last one. Who knows?
Yeah, but to go out on the last one being last year's would be so sad. So sad. Oh, man.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, award shows are just going the way of the dinosaur. Like, the Golden Globes are canceled. Well, they had a whole controversy. But did you see the Academy of Country Music Awards? They used to be on television. Mm-hmm. Now they're on Amazon Prime.
The CMT? Oh, that's
ACM,
Country Music TV or something.
That's CMT, but there's ACM. That's a different thing.
I guess
that's the future.
Yeah. Can't fight it.
No.
They'll try.
But and this really, I think, this takes the cake for why I think it may just this upcoming broadcast may be one of the worst ever. Uh, I don't hate Amy Schumer, but a lot of the ideas that have come out for like what they want to do with this show are really worrying. And then this really took the cake here. So I'm going to read from, I believe this is the Daily Beast. On Monday, co-host Amy Schumer revealed on the Drew Barrymore show that if she had her way, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky would take time off from trying to save the lives of his people during Russia's invasion of his country to beam into the Academy Awards. Quote, I wanted to find a way to have Zelensky satellite in or make a tape or something just because there are so many eyes on the Oscars, Schumer said, adding, I think it's a great opportunity to at least comment on a couple of things. I have some jokes that kind of highlight the sort of current condition. Why are you joking about Ukraine? Just I'm leaving at that there. And then an Academy representative attempting to reach Zelensky during an actual war to arrange a cameo at the Oscars sounds like something out of an Armando Iannucci show. But here we are. And then this person who was commenting on the article, or actually she's part of the article, but he's in the middle of an actual war. The idea that a world leader whose life and whose people's lives are in grave danger should take a break from wartime to address a bunch of rich people in tuxedos and gowns at the Oscars strikes me as pretty unseemly. And while I'm sure it comes from a good place, a representation of how out of touch some Hollywood folks are, I wouldn't be surprised if they saw Zelensky's show on Netflix and thought, hey, he's an actor. Let's have him at the Academy Awards.
He can do a skit.
Can you believe this?
Yes, 100%. Because we've seen time and time again, actors and rich people like this, they're just out of touch. They are so beyond out of touch, and the decisions they make, they don't know. Like their brain kind of fries in these kinds of scenarios. Like when the pandemic happened, a lot of actors just did a lot of stupid things because they don't know how to act. They're like, well, we're celebrities and people love us. How do we help people? By doing us? Like they don't know how to interact with like regular people. And I think it shows time and time again. Like, yeah, any regular person, their idea isn't like, we'll bring Zelensky onto the Oscars and it'll be great. He can spread his message. Yeah, it's not surprising to me that this was an idea though. And by the way, I am terrified to think of what the comedy skits will be.
This came directly from Amy Schumer, who seems to be taking some kind of a creative head then.
It seems like, yeah.
This. And every idea that's come out is bad.
So far that I've heard, yeah. I haven't heard one of their ideas and I'm like, oh yeah, that would be funny. That'd be cool to see. Usually it's just like, ooh, I don't. Maybe let's leave that on the drawing board.
But you cut what she said to this. She has some jokes about Ukraine.
Don't say any jokes.
What?
Don't. No jokes. Just if you have to do anything, just at the top of your speech, be like, hey, while we're all here celebrating in the comfort of, all this extravagance and all that, there are people across the world fighting for their lives. As great as movies are, let's remember what's really important, and then, have a little moment. If you want to do that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
But don't do anything else other than just that. Especially jokes about the situation.
Interesting. I think they took your advice hilariously. I think you're right when you say somebody like listens to our show, because you had advised a few weeks back about like one of the ways the Oscars can try and promote their telecast is to like really hype up the performances. Evidently, Beyonce is opening up the show. She is performing, and they're using that to like this will be the second time in recent memory where like a musical act has opened this as if it were the Grammys, which it's not. Remember Queen opened up hilariously the Oscars one year because Bohemian Rhapsody was nominated, and we wanted to hear Queen, but okay. And I guess that's part of how they're selling the show.
I mean, again, like I said, that makes sense. That's something to sell it. Music performance by Beyonce, I get it.
Yeah, I guess. Well, just a few days away now. There's always surprises, though.
Always.
I mean, there's always surprises, and we haven't even mentioned about how they're going to even handle the whole like announcement of the Twitter poll.
Oh God, I forgot. That's really fucked up, especially after they cut
8 categories, like actual people who are going to win Oscars. One of which would include Hans Zimmer collecting his 2nd Academy Award for fucking Dune.
Wow, so he's going to be on the...
Yeah, score was cut.
Gee, score's like a big deal.
So was editing.
Editing's a huge deal. I don't agree with those decisions.
Yeah. It's pretty fucking bad.
If you can do one thing, maybe cut out sound mixing and like sound design.
Well, sound mixing is no longer they combined sound mixing and sound editing into one award.
Yeah,
a few years ago.
Because I don't think anyone understood the difference. And anyone, I mean the
there
voters.
Wasn't.
Yeah,
there wasn't. Because sound editing and sound mixing is the same thing.
Well, maybe if you're a sound designer, you understand the intricate differences. But like most people, I don't know. It just doesn't seem big enough for anyone to understand the difference that if you're not a professional.
I hope Dune collects the Oscars it's supposed to. I'm a little concerned that something is going to happen where it may not walk away with as many, but I mean, it should walk away with at least 6 Oscars, and it deserves to, including visual effects. There was one other one before I forget. Oh, are you ready for Cruella to get the Oscar for best costumes?
I mean, the 2016 Suicide Squad already won for best makeup, so like yeah. I'm ready for anything. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll leave that there what the Academy is concerned, all right? So what else is there that I wanted to say? Well, this goes back to the Spider-Man No Way Home of it all. And if you've been on film Twitter this last week, I think you've seen what we've been seeing. And I think I feel like Alexis Moreno hit the nail on the head. Like, quite frankly, we're all sick of it. Maybe not for the same reasons, because I think and I'm a little torn because I do feel like a film that made $1.8 billion and is talked about so incessantly. Like, I guess that's where my issue is. Like, we're months past this movie having opened, and people still won't shut up about it. And I mean, they still won't shut up about how much they love it every single day. And there are so many other films, and I see that every day on my feed. So what I get annoyed at is the minute the film becomes available digitally and everyone's watching it again, now we have high resolution images from the film, as well as a lot of behind the scenes material that has come out. And the second I would say valid criticism of the film, maybe even newfound now, or maybe better examples of an old critique are made available, I just what I'm annoyed more so is the immediate and resoundful pushback from these MCU Spider-Man stans. They just won't hear it. And then all of this last week and a half has become just like this entrenched warfare between the two sides. And I'm like, it's gotten so bad where I'm like sick of it. But at the same time, for those of us who do want to be very critical of Marvel films, there've been a lot of great tweets, I will say, that really kind of show the cracks in the system, at least for those of us who feel that they've been lackluster lately. Not the least of which, some came from the actual people involved in the filmmaking itself, with one of the visual effects supervisors going on, I believe it was Vanity Fair, and giving like a presentation of how like they shot the film and how effects heavy the movie was. And the comedy of it happens to be found in the fact that he was presenting it as like, isn't this great how we were able to like
do everything
on a blue screen. Your thoughts on all of this crap? Because like for me, like I think the one that I find to be the most outrageous aspect of it, and we touched on this last week, is a lot of people were like, who gives a shit about how the movie looks? Who cares about cinematography?
Yeah, that's the issue that I have, right? Like, if you love the film, it sucks when people shit on things you love, right? Clearly.
I think I would know that.
Yeah,
from a lot of different things. Thank you for that. Years of abuse. Of
course, as you also know, people can get defensive, right? When people shit on things you love. I don't mind that so much, obviously. I think that's natural, that's a human response. And, maybe you can make some good points here or there. The thing that annoys me is when in response to anyone criticizing the visual effects of the film is to just say, well, visual effects doesn't matter. Like, how it looks doesn't matter. That's where I'm like, okay, you can defend the film, but to try and say like visuals in a film don't matter is insane to me. Like, film is a visual medium, especially with blockbusters. I feel like with blockbusters, you really need to hammer home great visuals, because usually with blockbusters, it's not a particularly deep story, or like the story itself is usually rather thin to allow room for action and chase scenes and exposition about gobbledygook science fiction fantasy stuff. Like you need all that. So the story itself and even maybe the themes are going to be pretty thin. And then on top of that, though, it's, I think anyway, the best one to make up for it through great, no, dare I say, fantastic visual storytelling, right? So to me, it does hurt a blockbuster a lot when the visual storytelling is lacking, because it's like, what's the point of making a blockbuster if it's not going to be visually stunning? Like, to me, that's the fucking point of a blockbuster. So yeah, the only real issue I take, well, one, it's also annoying that we're still arguing about this kind of shit. When I mean this kind of shit, I mean like this particular film. Like, new movies have come. Let's move on. However you feel.
And it ain't new. You were one of the first people that was like complaining about how this film looked visually before it even opened.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like it's a new critique.
No.
But yeah, the only issue I would say is when people try to claim like visuals don't matter in especially a blockbuster. There are some films where you could argue, maybe you can make arguments where like, yeah, visually it's not, it doesn't really matter. Maybe with certain comedies, here and there, whatever. But with a blockbuster, no. It's very important. Yeah, that's how I feel.
I would say I'm particularly offended by the refusal to engage in any kind of nuance. Like, it's all black and white. A lot of the pushback to this pushback has been like the idea that, because one of the ones that's been like trending is that one shot of Flash Thompson. Side note, I love how a lot of the people that were defending that were like, Flash Thompson's barely in the movie, and no one actually like cares. That's kind of a bad thing. Like, this is a character that should be kind of a big deal to Peter Parker's story, and he was a non-factor whatsoever, but okay, we're going to ignore that to the side. But in this case, the defense was, well, it was only in the movie for like a few seconds. Why do we care? Right? And I think that in and of itself is just like in bad faith, or just completely like misses the point, because none of the people that were complaining about that shot were saying, because of this one little instance here, the whole film is awful and does not have any value. No one was saying that. A lot of people actually were fans of the film, were critical of the aspects of the movie, because there are a great many things, I would say, to be critical of the film. Not the least of which happen to be with how artificial it looks. And I think we've got the answers already. Remember, we talked about this a few weeks back about how, you know, the VFX team and the lighting team across all the Marvel films are the same. And I think the behind-the-scenes stuff with Eternals and Shang-Chi exposed it. And this other supplementary material from Spider-Man, I think, also further exposes it. Like, I shared with you clips of that video from the VFX supervisor for Spider-Man, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think of that?
I mean, it was pretty
blatant,
where it's like, yeah, a lot of the stuff that, of course, we have had issue with. I mean, it's clear, right? Like, it's not even hidden. Like, they talk about the film, they're like, yeah, like, this is the way we make the film. It's if Blockbusters used to shut down a city street corner and shoot out in real life, now they do it in CGI. They don't. They just do it in CGI. Everything that where it's like, well, you know, we could have gone to some random, I don't know, some park and shot it here. Why? We got all the we have everything perfectly set up here with the screens, and we can do it digitally. And one, no matter how good the visual effects are, it's if so much of it is digital, you are going to have that sort of separation of reality that I think is integral to these films, and makes you need a good balance of real life, actual on location shots and CGI, because that's what helps the CGI feel real. If it's just all in CGI, it just doesn't feel real. So that's.
I thought everybody was on board. That's one of the issues the prequels had.
Yeah, but now everyone loves the prequels. See.
So what? That critique is null and void?
Yeah, I guess. I don't. It seems that way, doesn't it? And then two, it's this thing of like, well, these films are kind of just basically animated films now, and it requires so much CGI that
excessive amounts of CGI.
That it was not like this, 10, 20 years ago, and they're not given nearly enough time, that even if they did have the time and the money, they have the money, it's just they don't have the time to make it look as realistic as possible. They don't even have that, right? Even if it was as realistic as possible, you would still, I think, have too much of a separation. But they don't have that because, and again, we know about this, instead of kicking back Spider-Man, they just crunched over time bullshit when it came to doing the CGI, and to the point where they were even fixing the film while it was in theaters. And like, I don't feel bad saying this because it's not a knock against the director or the artist, it's a knock against the system. I mean, you can tell that it wasn't finished in theaters. They just visually, there's just a lot of things that just don't look great at all.
In a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. And the thing is that maybe it's more expensive, maybe it's harder to coordinate, to go out and shoot in a park.
No, we do know that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of the clips I sent you, well, it's just easier. It's less costly doing it this way. Yeah. And that is, when we say it's excessive CGI, we're talking about, like, when you think of effects heavy shots, you think of like Thanos or something, or a scene with him, or maybe on an alien planet, for example. But a lot of the scenes that were showcased, at least through these clips that I sent, happen to be images of like a street in New York, or the inside of an apartment, where you have the main actor, which would be either Tom Holland or Tony Revolori, and they're like talking to each other via cell phone, and their entire backgrounds are just like completely like digital.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that. There's no need for that. Just go shoot somewhere and have actual extras in the background.
Yeah. And it just seems like that isn't done anymore.
At all.
Yeah. Specifically with Marvel films. And that's not good. It definitely, I've seen it. It affects the visuals of the film. It does.
Well, the lighting, right? I think there was a big juxtaposition between two clips I sent you, one of which happened to be from the making of Eternals, and one of which what happened to be with this guy, the VFX supervisor for No Way Home. And this guy was like saying in No Way Home, like, well, every shot that we light has to look exactly the same. Otherwise, it won't like all come together. No, because it looks ugly and it looks sterile and artificial. And then when you see Soretti in the Making of Eternals clip, where he himself comes from this Marvel mentality, or like he was like, because a lot of the film was shot outside and on location, and he was struggling, panicking actually, with the fact that a lot of the shots didn't have the exact same lighting. And like he kind of had to be like beat into submission by Chloe. Was like, no, that's the point. Let them be different. Let them feel natural.
They're in different locations with different lights and sunlight, and yeah.
Which also, this is another example of when people say that every Marvel movie is the same. They keep adding up.
Yeah, like when people talk about their issues with the MCU or the MCU formula, or just when people talk about like issues pertaining specifically to the MCU, this is one of the main things they're talking about, right? That look and that feel of, like, at this point, it's not, the issue isn't that all the films look and feel the same, although that, of course, that is an issue. It's that they look and feel ugly.
Yeah.
If they all looked and felt cool, but they were all very similar, it's like, okay, well, then my issue is just like, maybe try and change up the looks. But the issue is they all look similar and it's all just ugly. Like, even a film that a lot of people really like and they'll try to praise the visuals for, something like Thor Ragnarok, there are many...
There's bad moments in Thor Ragnarok.
There's some moments.
There is honestly one of the most awful uses of green screen I've seen any big budget movie do. Like, talking about awful, it's like Doctor Who and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had better green screen shots than Thor Ragnarok for some of those, like, especially when they're with what's his name, Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, but you see the trailer, in the first trailer, I think those sequences took place in New York.
Yeah.
And then they just completely switched it to being, what was it, Norway?
Yeah.
And you could tell it was just the same shots, just switched out the backgrounds, and yet it just doesn't look good. And again, that's another reason why they do a lot of CGI like that too, is, they have all their it's a lot easier to just
swap out
backgrounds if you need to change the story around a little bit. Because if they, instead of getting on a plane and getting equipment together and buying permits and this and that to fly to Norway, or even somewhere not in Norway but looks like Norway, a patch of green land somewhere in the US, even that is more difficult than just going like, hey, let's just stand in front of the green screen and say your lines, and then we'll just patch Norway in at the back, and that's it. Yeah, it's easier, it's cheaper, especially when you're making like 5 movies and 4 television shows a year, It's cheaper, it's more efficient, and most importantly, it's not going to affect your bottom line because people will still eat it up.
And the fans don't care.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they don't care. And even as someone who I do not hate No Way Home. In fact, as we both have mentioned, I enjoy it. I still say it's my favorite MCU Spider-Man. film. I very much enjoy it. When it comes out, I'll watch it again, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it too. But I'm not gonna pretend like it doesn't have these issues, because the hope is if you make enough fuss about these issues, they will get better. And
because at the moment they decidedly have gotten worse.
Yeah,
just think about look at that dungeon sequence in that film. That's terrible. And then also think about in Shang-Chi, where the main battle between Shang and Wenwu takes place. It's just ugly.
And I think a lot of people have pointed out, if you go back to like the phase 1, those issues weren't really there.
No, because they went on location and they filmed like they were real movies.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a machine yet.
Yeah. Well, there it is. Other stuff I have here. I wanted to talk about Chloe Zhao's reaction. It's always interesting to see like directors react to like works of theirs that happen to be quite divisive, right? And sometimes the reactions can be quite hilarious. Sometimes they can be kind of off-putting. And then rarely they're actually kind of interesting. And I thought this was a particular exchange that from my impression, was severely misunderstood, clearly by a lot of like Marvel stans in particular. So Chloe Zhao was commenting on Eternals and the divided reception of it. And then this is what was said. The director says she was aware of the mixed reviews on release, but wasn't concerned by them. She says, I think the need for consensus is a hindrance for any authentic creative process. We'll just stop right there and read that again. I think the need for consensus is a hindrance for any authentic creative process. I couldn't agree more, not just about her movie, but just in general. I hate the idea that because something is divisive, that means it's automatically bad. We saw The Last Jedi continues to get this treatment because it is an acknowledgement of reality that it is a divisive film, but because it is that way, it's not looked at as a success because it divided people. Mm-hmm. The same way that this crosses over to politics, but it's that same concept that a lot of people who otherwise would be very much predisposed to supporting a Bernie Sanders, I met and told me that they didn't want him to be the nominee because he was quote unquote divisive. That's and this idea that like a consensus in and of itself can be a hindrance to the creative process, I think is a point not too many people want to make.
Well, I think it's because people have effectively looked at a lot of this films and the whole Hollywood system as, they go like, whoa, it's a business, right? So I am the customer and the customer is always right. So just make the thing I want. But I mean, you can argue to a certain extent, especially if studios are footing the bill, there is some level of like, well, if it's their money, try to make them their money back and the whole business side of it. But at the end of the day, like, films are art. To me, first and foremost, films are art. And it seems to me that the biggest hindrance, like she says, to that artistic expression is to try to make just chasing whatever you think it is people want, right? Because if you're doing that, you're not making art from the heart. You're just sort of constructing what you think people want.
It reminds me of a scene from Pig, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they really get into that. Yeah. I forgot, that film. So for me, it's always like, good or bad, I want to see a movie that comes from somewhere, from usually a director, because they're the one in charge of everything. I don't know. I just feel like if I see a film, it should be some insight into the person
who the person is that made it.
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of lately it's become a key thing for me.
Yeah.
Like I kind of like, it's become the thing where I need to see that. If not, it's going to become a struggle for me. She goes on, just like it's a hindrance for living an authentic life as a person. I have been on the receiving end of somewhat consensus and divisiveness about my work. Neither of them has any real influence on me as an artist, because every time I'm lucky enough to create, I learn from the process, from what I've succeeded at and what I failed at. But that learning process is a very intimate affair. Anything beyond that for me is just part of the ecosystem that exists because of the nature of the industry we're in. Like flower or a rock, I acknowledge and appreciate their presence, but that's as far as it goes. That's where that point ends. And then it goes on, released at a point when the coronavirus pandemic had been causing disruption worldwide for nearly 2 years, Zhao wasn't surprised that opinion was split on her tale of troubled heroes trying to navigate their place and purpose in the cosmos. She says, Eternals was planned to be released soon after Endgame. I did not know this. This is interesting. And then go back to this quote. And not at a time when everyone is having an existential crisis, she says. The film itself is about existential crisis, both for humanity and God. So I think we definitely felt it was coming. Zhao also spoke about how the film was received in relation to her previous works, including Nomadland and fellow indie favorite The Rider, and the assumption that major elements of Eternals were a product of the Marvel process, quote unquote, rather than her as a filmmaker. And she says, when people have that feeling like they need to put order into things, they need to understand it by putting it into boxes. It's not about us, it's not about them. And I say that lovingly because they have a level of comfort with how their entertainment and their world, their beloved Marvel or their beloved indie filmmaker functions. That's the order, the logic of their world that's being disturbed. So I appreciate their passion to try and make sense of it. She continues, the truth is that nobody is one layer. In this case, we truly stepped out of the box that I think the world put us in and met in the middle because of our shared interests. And by truly doing that, it made a lot of people uncomfortable on both sides. But there are also people who are more comfortable with their order being disturbed. And they look at this, I love how she says this, and they look at our love child and go, oh, this touches different sides of me. Taken out of context, that would be kind of weird.
Yeah.
I like that. She says, so I completely understand the divisiveness coming from critics and the fans, because when you take this to extremes that are seen as opposition, the world I come from and the world of Marvel, that has been divided in a way that's so unfair and unfortunate, and to merge it the way that we did, I actually see the reaction as a testament to how much we had merged with each other, how uncomfortable that might make people feel. A lot of people, I think, misunderstood what she was saying here. Like, a lot of people I saw that they were confused with her word of the use, uncomfortable. Like, they were confused. Like, the movie didn't make me feel uncomfortable. I just didn't get it. And I think, like, the point I think she was making with that last bit here is that people have a certain way, they have a certain expectation out of a certain movie.
And when you don't get that expectation, that makes you uncomfortable. You know, even if that's not the word you think it would use, like, really, that's what it is, right? I get what she's saying. She's saying, as she lovingly calls it, a love child of sort of her, from her sort of corner of like indie world darling Chloe Zhao, and the meshing of, you know, the McDonald's of the movie world, Marvel, and
both of which, and she mentions this here, are at odds with each other.
Yeah,
they're at war. I mean, we just talked about it on Film Twitter. It's open war, and
so I think she's saying like her movie is ultimately a meshing of both, which I do think is somewhat an admission that it is not that it isn't fully a Chloe Zhao film, but that yes, the Marvel formula is. Yeah,
it's an admission that she used her sensibilities from her world met at the middle, as she says, with the other world, and it was kind of a mesh of all those things. Yeah,
which makes sense to me, right? And I think she's saying like that makes sense that people on both sides would look at it and go like, well, that's not right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just sort of not gel with it.
Yeah, because the Marvel fans want their Marvel movie the way that they always want it, and a lot of other people, and maybe you and I would maybe belong to this crowd more so, would be like, well, if this wasn't constrained by this McDonald's formula, it would be something really special.
And I think she's one of those people. I think she, listening to that quote, maybe it seems like she kind of likes the challenge of making a McDonald's meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She likes
I mean,
that it
remember
is.
Remember how Denny called it a challenge to make Dune? That's his most like accessible film ever.
He's like, it's difficult to make a film that's accessible. But I will say, I think the reason why Dune worked better, again, is because he made an accessible film, but he didn't make a McDonald's film. Whereas with Chloe, well, I was one of the ones that came out first that said, I enjoyed it. There's a lot here that I like. Oh, man, I really do feel like I would have loved it if it was just a blockbuster and not a Marvel film. Because those, it's not just the blockbuster constraints. I think it's the specific Walt Disney Company, Marvel Limited constraints, MCU constraints that hold it back in a certain way. Because, like, again, look at something like The Batman.
Yeah.
I think that's a great meshing of the two worlds.
The problem is the studio, of course. Like, if she had made this with WB, it may have been a different story.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also do think there's more to another point she made, is that this is a film about existentialism, and as far as like the mass Marvel audience is concerned,
ain't nobody want to talk about that shit.
No. So, yeah, I don't think any of this is like hand waving or like dismissive of any, like, I noticed people that were saying that these comments came across as like dismissive to like any valid critiques of her film. I didn't get that from these comments. I think Chloe really just like was commenting on like the reaction that the film got, and that's just about it. I don't know. That's where it is for me. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, Peter. Like, I really can't disagree with what you said there about like the stuff that holds back the film, and ultimately that it would be better if it were another studio. Because I feel I made those points first, if we're being clear here.
Okay.
In the review months back.
Maybe.
But I don't know. Maybe I'm just letting things go because, things work sometimes and they don't. It's gonna be an interesting top 10, that's for sure. That's for sure. Encanto. All right. I think we're just about done here. I do want to clarify one thing, though, from last week. Actually, I want to clarify a couple of things in the waning hours of this podcast. For listeners, especially that were like, who tuned in, I feel like ultimately I need to like apologize to the audience for like even attempting to have like a genuine conversation with Peter about this subject, because it just seems
I like how when you apologize, you still put it on me.
It is on you.
Oh, okay.
Because, well, no, it's on me that
you
I
trusted
expected
me.
more of
yeah,
you.
okay.
And that's not what happened. Because I think ultimately what happened is we were just talking past each other the entire time. And like, what I was asking you, you refused to engage with. And so it just like, we couldn't meet at the middle ultimately. And I think the part that I'm referencing is this whole thing about like, the canon thing, and like you kept asking about what the threshold for the Daredevil thing would be, the canon, the threshold, and you kept asking it in a way that presumes I myself was making the critique that there was no possible way for the two series to be bridged. I know you know that, but I don't think it was made. I listened back to the exchange. I don't think that was made clear because we just kept like going past each other. So I wanted to make that point clear.
Okay.
I know you know that, and I wanted to make it even more clear that you were trolling.
Wait a minute.
What I mean, the Snyder stuff.
Who said I was
when you
trolling?
basically called me a Snyder cultist. That's you trolling, because I mean
How is that? I said you were similar. Clearly you're not.
Now you're introducing nuance.
Hold on. You're clearly not literally a Snyder cultist, because your cult is not that of Snyder. Your cult is that of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., AOS. Mm-hmm. And all I was saying is, similarly, in the ways in which, if you look at a lot of Snyder cultists online, it's, and you know, some of them are nice. Some of them I assume are good people.
But you see, oh my, and some I assume are good people.
Some I assume are good people.
Oh my god, But you see, my issue with it is like most of them are not, and most of them are reduced to like terrorist like approaches they target people. They target the creators of this stuff. Of various different like films and TV shows.
Well, clearly you haven't.
I don't do that, and a lot of these S.H.I.E.L.D. people don't do that. That's why I felt the comparison was unfair.
The comparison is only in a cult-like obsession with both, with specifically defending said.
Yeah,
it's the defending part that I'm comparing. Yeah, right. Because
I believe that this should be defended, because clearly, I mean, you've seen the stuff.
With Snyder people to the ends of the earth.
Right, to the ends of the earth. Although I would argue mine's actually good.
This is what I mean.
But it's the truth.
I mean,
at least it's my truth.
I've never called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. bad. I think I've only ever had positive things to say about the show when discussing my personal opinion.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
It's been a long time since you said anything positive about it.
The show's been on air for a long time. I don't know the fuck to tell you.
You haven't seen it either, so there's also that. Or the most recent stuff.
I also haven't seen the 3rd season of Daredevil. Like, it's... It's not as if it's some vendetta.
Hide behind the Daredevil thing.
I will.
Yeah. Go ahead and hide behind that. I guess just ultimately for me, I was just fed up with people who were bending over backwards to make an exception for one show, but they were refusing to do so with the other one. Mm-hmm. So there's that. Now with this week, I promise this is not going to go negative. So this is actually the surprise here. Oh, I mean, it won't go unless you stir some shit. Yeah, I mean, and let's be real here, that can happen. But I'm really sad to say that like this comes across as a genuine like surprise that something like a couple of good things occurred over the week as a result of this show being made available on Disney Plus. But that's the level I've been reduced to here, is that I've come to expect nothing but negativity and abuse in the headlines and the press when it comes to this show, like for years and years and years now. When I actually get something that's like halfway positive, it's strange. So the first thing is, this one's weird because it cuts both ways. Like for some, it's like, well, this is hilarious because it was cut out because of this. But for others, it's like, hey, here's definitive proof. So it was kind of like really weird, under the radar, but like it was revealed this past weekend on Twitter that evidently one of the artists that was working on Avengers Endgame, one of the VFX artists, included a shot of Diamond Reed, the actor that played Dr. Daniel Whitehall in the series. Mm-hmm. There was a photo image of him next to Red Skull in the sequence in the film where they're talking about where the Infinity Gems have been throughout the series of the MCU movies. And that at one point, that was going to be in the movie. And before we even get to the hilarious part, the idea that was actually something that was going to happen is still kind of mind-blowing. It's pathetic that's kind of like that would have been more than enough. But considering the fact that we've had no acknowledgement, that in and of itself would have been all the acknowledgement that was needed. And so, of course, it wasn't ultimately chosen to be one of the things that was included in the final version. I think it was like only 2 of those 9 shots that were created were actually selected in the finalized version.
Came in and slapped that shit down.
And it's hilarious because that could be a very valid reading of why ultimately that wasn't in the movie. Or it also could be, well, we didn't need it. And it's just like, wouldn't it just be like a circumstance of like complete hilarity that like when you add all of these like close calls up, it was just by mere coincidence that every single instance where something could have been like a direct reference to something else, to S.H.I.E.L.D. especially, it was for a very valid reason that it was like, no, we'll go in another direction. Instead of like it being like a spite-filled like tangent and we'll go to the ends of the earth to not acknowledge something. And I struggled to think of like which is like, what did you think personally though? I don't mean about like, I'm not talking about canon. I'm just talking about like the idea that at one point this is going to be included.
I think that's so funny. That you came this close. You could almost taste it. You could feel it. And then just through your fingers. That's so funny. 10 out of 10. Great. It brightened my day. It was good. Very good.
This is what you live for.
It's funny. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, it is. No, it is funny. Because it was this close. This close and yet so far away. Again.
There's always...
And the same... There's always what?
Next Marvel project.
It's always next year?
Always next year.
So that was funny here. But what I was mentioning is the parade of like articles that came out over the weekend that were like not expected. Because for the most part, the show really went under the radar in terms of like this being on Disney Plus in comparison to like the 6 other like Defender series that are coming over from Netflix. Because and even in the marketing on Disney Plus, let's be real, even in the ads, like S.H.I.E.L.D. was always at the last name that was mentioned. It was like put below Iron Fist.
Yeah.
In all of the ads. And even in the Marvel show exclusive like 30-second ads that were released by Disney, S.H.I.E.L.D. only got like 2 shots and no lines. So the fact that it ended up being the only other show besides Daredevil to be on Disney Plus's trending tab still as of this day. I checked it. I know you know I checked it, but I wanted to clarify. I did check again. It's still there. There were the only 2 shows that made it onto that tab for now over a week that it's been on the service. And I think that's pretty hilarious considering how Disney Plus didn't think that was going to happen. Oops. And I think it even goes further to my point that 1, it is very much beloved and popular, and 2, the fact that there was a very high profile personality that made mention of the fact that Daredevil was the only show, quote unquote, to trend when literally right next to it was another Marvel show, but curiously enough, that wasn't mentioned.
She meant MCU.
Hey guys, this is Alexis from the not so distant future. I just wanted to interject and correct the record for something that I just said involving the trending section on Disney Plus and me saying that Daredevil was, of course, the show of the 7 Marvel shows that recently dropped that was the highest, in fact, that both that and S.H.I.E.L.D. were the only ones of that bunch that were able to make it onto the trending page. And as it turns out, while that was the case for the vast majority of that first week, I just wanted to interject and say that actually, based on what I'm seeing as the most recent listing of it. And now, of course, this can and probably will change. But for this moment, for that particular day, which was Thursday of that week, March 25th, or actually March 24th, it turns out actually that S.H.I.E.L.D. was the highest of the Marvel shows on the trending tab. So only 2 of the 7, which were S.H.I.E.L.D. and Daredevil, managed to make it. And as we stand here, it turns out that the show that Disney Plus marketed the least in terms of its making, a splash on the service is the one that actually, at least for a brief moment, managed to hit number 1 of the 7. And so I'm saying it because no one else on planet Earth will say it. So anyway, back to whatever you were listening to.
Not to burst anyone's bubble, of course.
Uh-huh.
But do you think the reason might be
because it has more episodes?
Well, that's one, obviously. But 2 is that you sort of have to watch those Netflix shows in order. And if I remember correctly, the order is like Daredevil season 1, season 2, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders, and then season 3 of Daredevil.
Yeah. But I would say, like, if you're a new viewer, you wouldn't necessarily have that in mind, would you?
Yeah, but you would still start with Daredevil.
Yeah, you would. And I think you saw that in the numbers. Like, the Daredevil was the one that was, like, gravitating. Everybody's attention was gravitating towards. But, like, those that did see all of those shows, I mean, are you rushing to go back and see Iron Fist?
Well, okay, clearly
or
not
Jessica
Iron
Jones
Fist.
after season 1?
Maybe I like Jessica Jones. Maybe I'll check out Jessica Jones. I don't know.
Jessica Jones season 1 is a masterpiece. I love that season. Yeah. But I mean, like, the other seasons. I never saw season 2 or 3. I never saw season 2 of Luke Cage. You know why? Because Defenders was pretty underwhelming.
The cheapness got to me. Where it's just like you need
I didn't even see Daredevil again after that because it was just it really just like it stunk the whole place.
Yeah.
Think about that. Like, I missed out on, like, Iron Fist season 2, Luke Cage season 2, Jessica Jones 2 and 3. Daredevil
Wait, Jessica Jones
3.
had 3 seasons?
Yeah.
You're lying. It didn't have 3.
I mean, I'm more than happy. Go on Disney Plus right now.
I don't believe you.
He doesn't believe you. Jessica Jones had 3 seasons. Yeah, it was the last one, I think.
No.
Jessica Jones season 3 was the last of the shows to drop on Netflix.
You're a fucking liar, dude. Hold on.
Okay,
I'm signed out of Disney Plus on you.
Just go on Wikipedia, or you can go to our new sponsor, Serialized. It's basically the Letterboxd for TV shows.
Yeah,
do you have the app?
I'm not doing that. Let's see. Jessica Jones. Marvel's Jessica Jones. Premiered in 2015. Let's see. Season 1. How many seasons?
It's 3 seasons, man.
I can't find. David sees a lot of things. I don't know. I need it proven to me, but yeah.
David can vouch. Like, he saw them. I didn't know that either until like a few years ago, but yeah. Jessica Jones had 3 seasons.
I don't believe you, but okay.
All right. But yeah, it's been fun to see a whole bunch of headlines like that are just positive about this show, and I'm happy to see a trend as well. And I think because I mean, if we're being real here, I think like for the first time ever, because it's so like next to all the other Marvel stuff, this show has never been more like accessible and visible as it is right now. for like especially newfound people and maybe those that like never, made it past the second episode to go back and give it another shot. So I'm hopeful and let me be clear here. All I want is this show to, even if it's never made canon, it would be hilarious enough for me to just see this be like a beloved show in its own right, which is ultimately what I want, really.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it's already trending on Disney Plus.
For now. It was 600 episodes, I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it was trending everywhere else on the planet on Disney Plus. Just
in Brazil, but,
No, it was everywhere. The UK, Australia, all Latin America. Number 1 when it dropped its 7th season. So, although it wasn't number 1, it was on the trending tab, but it wasn't anywhere near number 1. In fact, Daredevil was over it. Encanto.
Oh yeah, of course. They added a sing-along version. That's when you know the film's a hit. When you get that sing-along version for Disney animation, anyway.
Yeah. So there is that. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Peter, for being here again. I don't know if I need to reiterate, but go and watch Drive My Car, please. Give these movies a chance. We'll be back next week to discuss the Oscars, and I'm hoping the week after that we can finally be done with 2021. And we're also planning on seeing several high-profile movies in the next coming weeks, not the least of which happen to be X or Everything Everywhere All at Once. Hopefully, maybe even also The Lost City. Fingers crossed that they'll all come and we can see them. So, and The Northman.
Yes.
So,
got my hair ready.
All right. That's it for today, guys. Stay under our spotlight, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.